I came home early and heard my girlfriend laughing about her affair, so I left without saying a word. I'm 27, male, and I've been with my girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend now, for almost 3 years. We lived together in a small apartment downtown. I worked long hours as a software developer for a startup. You know how it goes. Late nights, constant pressure, but it paid well enough to keep us comfortable. My girlfriend Kay worked part-time as a TA while finishing her degree, and things seemed fine. I had no reason to question our relationship. We had arguments like any couple, but nothing out of the ordinary. At least that's what I thought until last Tuesday. I got off work earlier than usual that day. My boss had a meeting canceled, and I figured I could surprise Kay with her favorite takeout, and maybe even go for a movie afterward. It was one of those rare nights where we both had some time to relax. It had been a rough couple of months. She was stressed with her final exams, and I was buried in work. I just wanted to remind her that we were in this together, no matter how hard things got. I parked outside our building, takeout bags in hand, and felt good for the first time in a while. But as I climbed the stairs, I noticed something strange. The door to our apartment was slightly ajar. My heart did that weird thing where it skips a beat, then thuds in your chest like it's trying to escape. I stepped in quietly. I could hear voices. Hers, obviously, but there was someone else. A guy, for sure. At first I thought maybe one of her friends had come over. It didn't really make sense, but I didn't jump to conclusions. At least not yet. I walked in further, through the short hallway that leads to the living room, and then I heard it. "Yeah, he has no idea," she was saying, her voice clear and sharp in the otherwise silent apartment. I froze. I mean, he works all the time. It's not like he notices when I'm out with you. Plus, I've got him wrapped around my finger, so even if he did, I could talk my way out of it. I blinked, unsure if my brain was playing tricks on me. Maybe I misunderstood. But no, the guy laughed, and I heard the unmistakable sound of a bottle clinking against the glass. They were drinking in our living room. "He's so clueless," she continued. "It's almost sad how easy it's been. And the best part? He still thinks I'm stressed about school, and that's why I'm distant. It's pathetic." I felt my throat tighten, my hand gripping the takeout bag until my knuckles went white. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they might hear it from the other room. I wanted to storm in there, confront her, scream something, anything, but I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. "Well," the guy said, his voice dripping with arrogance, "as long as it works out for us, who cares, right? It's not like you're ever going to get caught." That was it. That was the moment I felt the world split beneath me, like someone had pulled the floor out from under my feet. I didn't know who this guy was, maybe one of the guys from her classes, maybe someone she worked with. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she'd been cheating on me for God knows how long, and she was sitting there laughing about it like it was some kind of joke. I thought about barging in, screaming at her, throwing them both out, demanding answers. But then something stopped me. Maybe it was the fact that they didn't even know I was there. Or maybe it was the realization that whatever confrontation I had wouldn't change the fact that the person I loved, trusted, was a complete stranger to me now. So I left. I turned around quietly, backed out of the apartment, and closed the door as gently as I could. I didn't risk them hearing me. I don't know why. I walked back down the stairs, got in my car, and drove off. My hands were shaking, my vision was blurry, and I felt like I was suffocating. But I kept driving. I didn't go home that night. Hell, I didn't know where home was anymore. I ended up at a friend's place, someone Kay didn't know about, so she couldn't track me down easily. I just crashed on his couch without saying much, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts spiraling into this dark abyss.
The next morning, I blocked her everywhere, on my phone, social media, email, anything you could think of. I didn't even tell her why. I wanted her to feel what I felt for that split second when I heard her voice laughing about me like I was some idiot who didn't know any better. I wanted her to realize that I was gone, that she couldn't explain it away, that she couldn't manipulate her way out of it. The first few days were chaos. She tried calling 1,000,000 times, texting me, emailing me, sending messages through mutual friends, even showing up at my office. My phone would buzz constantly from all the unknown numbers she tried to reach me through. Every message started the same: confusion, then apologies, and then eventually desperation. "Why?" one message started. "Please, let's talk. I can explain everything. It's not what you think. I love you." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because how do you respond to someone who can betray you so easily, then try to twist the narrative as if you've somehow misunderstood the very clear betrayal you overheard? I wasn't misunderstanding anything. It was crystal clear. She wasn't just cheating on me physically, she was humiliating me behind my back. She had no respect for me as a person, as her partner. More time passed, I kept getting messages through our mutual friends asking where I was, telling me that Kay was freaking out, crying, desperate to talk. They didn't know the full story, of course. I hadn't told anyone what I'd heard that night. Why would I? It was humiliating enough that it had happened. I didn't need to share it with the world. Then, about a week later, something else happened. I found out who the guy was. He wasn't a friend from school or work. He was one of my coworkers. That's right, the guy sitting there in my living room laughing about how clueless I was worked in the same office as me. I don't know how I didn't see it before. Maybe I'd seen him around Kay a few times, and I just brushed it off because I trusted her. But now it all made sense. The way she always asked about him, mentioned him in passing, like he was just part of some harmless story from my work life. She'd even suggested we invite him out for drinks once, but I never thought much of it. And then, to top it all off, I found out that he had a girlfriend. So not only was Kay cheating on me, but this guy was cheating on his girlfriend too. It was like some twisted game to them. And here I was, sitting on the sidelines, being played like a fool. I thought about confronting him at work, but I realized something. He wasn't worth it. She wasn't worth it. I was done with both of them. And dragging it all out into some big, dramatic showdown wouldn't make me feel better. It wouldn't change what had happened, and it wouldn't fix the betrayal. A few days later, Kay showed up at my friend's place. She must have figured out where I was staying through mutual connections. She was pounding on the door, crying, begging for me to open up. My friend asked me what I wanted to do. I told him to let her in. When she walked in, she looked like a mess. Mascara running, eyes red and swollen, her hands shaking like she was scared. I didn't feel sorry for her, not in the slightest. She started with the usual apologies, promises that it was all a mistake, that she was confused, that the other guy didn't mean anything, that it was just a moment of weakness. But the more she talked, the more I realized she was still manipulating me, still trying to control the narrative. She didn't even fully admit to the affair at first, instead saying things like, "It wasn't like that," and "I never meant to hurt you." Finally, I cut her off. "I heard everything," I said, my voice eerily calm, even though my insides were boiling. "I was there that night. You didn't know, but I was there, listening to you laugh about me like I was some idiot who didn't know any better." Her face turned pale and she stopped talking. For a second, I thought she might faint. She knew. She knew there was no way out of this now. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. "We're done," I said. "There's nothing left to say." She tried to protest, tried to rush toward me, but my friend stepped between us. She broke down in tears right there in the hallway, begging, sobbing, swearing that she'd never do it again, that she loved me. But I was done. I had nothing left to give her. I left her crying in that hallway and walked out of her life without looking back. The funny thing is, as devastating as it was in the moment, there was this strange sense of relief washing over me as I walked out that door, like I'd finally ripped off this massive Band-Aid that had been festering underneath. Sure, there was pain, raw, intense, soul-crushing pain, but the weight of all that deceit and humiliation was gone. I wasn't being played anymore. I was done being the fool.
After that day, she stopped trying. The calls, the texts, they all dried up. I think she finally realized there was no getting me back. Maybe she moved on to someone else. Maybe she spiraled into guilt and shame. I don't know.
I don't care. What mattered was that I was free from her lies. But the guy, the one from my work, that was a different story. See, I thought about leaving the job altogether, but why should I? Why should I uproot my life because of their selfish decisions? I wasn't going to let them ruin everything. I was good at what I did, and I had a future at this company, so I decided to stay. But that didn't mean I was going to let him get away with it. The next week, I walked into the office like normal, head held high, acting as if nothing had changed. But it was impossible not to notice the tension. He avoided me like the plague. Whenever we crossed paths in the hallway or in meetings, he'd look anywhere but at me, like he was expecting me to blow up at him any second. I didn't give him the satisfaction. I went to HR instead, quietly, calmly, and with every piece of evidence I needed to make sure they knew what kind of person they had on their payroll. It wasn't just about me. It was about the other people in the office. His girlfriend, who also worked in the building, by the way. Turns out, office affairs weren't exactly on the company's list of acceptable behavior, especially when it involved lying and manipulating people you worked with. The fallout was brutal. His girlfriend found out before HR even had time to deal with him. News spreads fast when people whisper behind closed doors. By the end of that week, he was gone. Fired, reputation trashed, and me? I kept my head down, focused on my work, and made damn sure no one thought I was the type to be messed with again. I didn't feel like a hero, though. There was no sense of victory in any of this, just a kind of cold satisfaction, knowing that I had removed the toxic parts of my life. What surprised me most, though, was how little time it took to move on. I thought I'd be haunted by Kay's betrayal for months, maybe even years. But after a few weeks, the fog lifted. I didn't feel like the guy who had been cheated on. I felt lighter, I guess, like I'd learned something important about myself, about how much I was willing to tolerate from someone who was supposed to love me. I realized that for a long time, I'd been putting Kay on a pedestal. I thought she was this perfect partner, and I'd ignored all the red flags. The nights she'd come home late with half-baked excuses, the time she'd pull away when I'd try to get close. I'd ignored it all because I didn't want to face the truth, that our relationship had been broken for a long time, and I'd been too blind to see it. I won't say I've completely forgiven her or the guy, maybe I never will, but I've learned to let it go, to focus on the things I can control, like my own happiness. And yet, trust is harder now. It'll probably take a long time before I can fully trust someone again, but that's okay. I'll get there. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that people can be incredibly selfish, but they can also be resilient. I'm not the same person I was before I overheard that conversation. I'm tougher now, smarter, and I know what I'm worth. I won't let anyone treat me like that again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.